Under the scorching sun of the American West, helicopters are chasing thousands of wild burros through rocky canyons. The U.S. government is spending nearly $200 million every year on a massive roundup, removing wild burros completely from the desert. For decades, they have been called harmful agents, invasive animals that drink up water sources and destroy the lives of native species. But right in the middle of the worst megadrought in 1,200 years, a remarkable paradox occurred. When herds of burros were taken into holding facilities, the natural water sources around them also began to disappear mysteriously. At that moment, scientists were stunned to realize this. These hunted animals were actually the desert's only hydraulic engineers. With instincts from the Ice Age, they dig deep into the burning sand to tap underground water that technology still cannot reach. Only a few hours after burros dig wells, dozens of other animal species arrive to search for a chance at survival. So, is this million-dollar campaign a conservation effort or a mistake that is removing the land's last hope? Does relocating thousands of animals truly rescue an ecosystem whose water sources are already collapsing? According to a recent budget report, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management, BLM, requested more than $153 million for the wild horse and burro management program alone. Currently, more than 64,000 animals are being held in off-range corrals, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars every day for food and medical care. This massive intervention comes from extreme environmental pressure. The American West is facing a megadrought. Water levels in reservoirs that supply tens of millions of people have repeatedly reached record lows. In the context of shrinking water supplies, wild burros became a target that had to be controlled urgently. One burro consumes an average of 19 to 30 liters of water per day. Traditional ecological assessments concluded that their hooves damage the fragile biological crust of the ground, reduce the sand's ability to retain moisture, and consume vegetation that would otherwise support native animals. Humans immediately intervened mechanically using helicopters to gather them. A series of campaigns were launched, directing thousands of burros to run through dangerous canyons into management areas, then transporting them thousands of miles to artificial sanctuaries. Land managers believed that simply removing water-consuming animals from the desert would allow the ecosystem to recover on its own. Every method of trapping, relocation, and fencing was applied at maximum scale. This effort was meant to stop the decline, but the desert continued to dry out, and seasonal stream beds still vanished without a trace. Just when large-scale burro roundups were believed to be the only way out, a new body of data from ecologists broke every existing management rule. A recent study published in the journal Science and led by ecologist Eric Lundgren provided shocking numbers. Along stream beds that had completely dried out in Arizona, wild burros did not simply wait for surface water to disappear. They dug their own wells. This behavior not only helped them survive, but also brought a huge amount of water to the surface, serving the entire ecosystem. Modern geological and paleontological data point to a forgotten truth: the horse family, Equidae, including the ancestors of modern burros and horses, actually evolved in North America 4 million years ago, before migrating to other continents and disappearing from their homeland around 10,000 years ago. The appearance of wild burros today is not necessarily the invasion of an alien species, but rather the filling of an ecological gap left behind by giant herbivorous megafauna. They are performing exactly the same biological function their ancestors once carried out, drilling through the Earth's crust to find water. What do you think about this paradox? The government spends hundreds of millions of tax dollars using helicopters to remove wild burros in order to protect water, while nature proves they function like a free underground water pumping system. Do you support these costly control campaigns, or accept letting them freely reshape the desert landscape? Leave your opposing viewpoint right below in the comments, because even scientists are now deeply divided over the results of this research. The truth about their engineering ability has been confirmed by data. But the question is this: how can biological hooves drill through compacted soil and rock that even mechanical tools struggle with? Wild burrows have an extremely sensitive ability to smell underground moisture. A burrow's hearing and sense of smell can detect humidity in the air from miles away. When surface temperatures exceed 40 degrees Celsius and streams evaporate, they move along the fracture channels of dry streambeds, accurately locating the aquifer layer closest to the surface. With extremely hard, horn-like hooves, they scrape and dig through layers of sand, gravel, and compacted clay. The leg bone structure and horn hoof layer of wild burrows evolved like specialized geological drill bits. When they press down onto the ground, they generate enormous kinetic energy, powerful enough to break through the layer of calcium carbonate caliche, a concrete hard deposit hidden beneath the desert surface. Infrared cameras recorded that one burrow can take from several dozen minutes to several hours to complete a dugout pit, cutting down as deep as 1.8 to 2 meters. Monitoring cameras recorded a highly organized division of labor. The largest and strongest dominant male burrows take on the task of breaking through the hardest surface. When the biological drill bit reaches the moist mud layer, they carefully use their mouths and front legs to pull the clay out, shaping a perfectly sloped well wall to prevent sand and soil from collapsing and burying the water source. The physical mechanism works with extreme efficiency. When the hard crust of the desert is broken, osmotic pressure changes. Capillary action immediately pulls water from shallow aquifer layers up to the surface. The deep funnel-shaped pit design creates natural barriers, providing shade that protects the water surface from direct sunlight and reduces the drying effect of desert wind. The temperature inside the wells created by burrows is always significantly lower than the surrounding ground. They continuously create a series of new wells along their travel routes, forming an underground water distribution system stretching for dozens of kilometers. The permanently released groundwater changes the local hydrological flow. A burrow well 2 meters deep can continuously provide dozens of liters of water per day, even at the peak of the dry season, creating an instant survival oasis. Bringing groundwater to the surface through mechanical force is only the beginning. But what truly surprised scientists was not that they found water, but the speed of the biological explosion beyond all predictions that happened immediately afterward. A few weeks later, these waterholes reshaped the structure of an entire landscape. Monitoring data forced scientists to reassess the drought model. The wells dug by burrows not only increased surface water by 14 times, but also activated a self-contained ecosystem. Camera traps recorded exactly 59 vertebrate species using these dug wells, from mule deer, bobcats, and badgers to reptiles and insects. All of them depended on the water brought up by burrows. This additional surface water sustained the food chain within a radius of 15 kilometers. Desert black bears and mountain lions, apex predators, also returned and used the burrow wells as hunting centers. The biodiversity index surged by 64%. Loose soil and continuous moisture around the well mouths created perfect physical conditions for seeds to germinate. More than that, wild burrows functioned like giant seed-sowing machines. Their digestive system does not completely destroy seeds. As they move and defecate around the moist water wells, they unintentionally provide a natural fertilizer layer extremely rich in nitrogen. Millions of seeds that had lain dormant in the sand for years were suddenly pulled into a growth cycle. Riparian plants such as cottonwood trees and willow trees rooted themselves in the muddy ground around the wells. Dry pits turned into small micro-oases. Research published in an ecology journal proves that plants growing around burrow well systems have a biomass growth rate 3 times faster than plants growing naturally in the open desert. The distance between water stations in the desert was significantly shortened. This well network became a vital stopping point for enormous flocks of migrating birds. For tens of thousands of birds flying along the Pacific Flyway, these were the only refueling stations that did not evaporate completely. Ornithologists counted thousands of songbirds, hummingbirds, and desert owls gathering at these micro-oases. They had places to drink water, find shade, and hunt the insects concentrated around the wells, helping tens of thousands of birds recover energy to continue their journey across the harsh desert. A perfect biological machine increased the sources of life and pulled entire plant and animal communities back. However, this ecological picture is not entirely a perfect scenario. And the truth behind the numbers showing an explosion of biodiversity is far more complicated. But in natural resource management science, every intervention has a critical limit. This ecological engineer model only brings positive value when population density is kept within the allowed ceiling, known as the appropriate management level, or AML. The problem arises when a population grows exponentially without any large natural predators to control it. For example, in the Black Mountain Herd Management Area, the number of burrows passed 1,900, 4 times higher than the safe limit of 478 animals. When the number exceeds the threshold, the benefits of well digging are immediately cancelled out. Excessive density leads to overgrazing. The huge caloric demand of thousands of animals will wipe out the young vegetation that has only just grown around the waterholes. The hooves, the tool that once opened the water vein, now compact the entire area of soil around the oasis, trampling plant roots and degrading the ground surface at a rate that cannot recover. Balancing burrow numbers requires continuous data measurement. However, treating this as an absolute model of hope has concealed 3 extremely dangerous hidden ecological risks. First, this narrow well network is facing the risk of becoming a reservoir of pathogens. When dozens of wild animal species are forced to drink from the same small water source, the risk of cross-species disease outbreaks increases exponentially. Second, wild burrow manure contains the seeds of countless weed species with extreme growth potential, threatening to overwhelm native plant communities. And third, the concentration and dominance of burrow herds at these water stations have forced smaller native herbivores to leave their territory because they cannot compete for life-sustaining resources. This deep contradiction opens up an intense ethical debate over the direction of natural resource management. We are turning a species labeled invasive into a free ecological restoration tool. On one hand, management authorities are implicitly benefiting from the enormous hydrological network created by burrows to slow the widespread degradation of the desert. But on the other hand, they continue investing tens of millions of dollars into controversial helicopter control campaigns. This is a governance paradox. Humans are exploiting the ecosystem engineering value of wild burrows, but refusing to grant them the legal right to exist on the very land they are digging through to sustain life. Humans cannot simply let them roam free and hope the desert will recover on its own. But spending hundreds of millions of dollars to remove them completely also creates similar ecological damage. The long tug of war between complete mechanical removal and unconditional natural freedom has pushed managers into a dead end, forcing us to rethink how humans interact with large-scale natural systems. The story of wild burrows in the American Southwest reshapes a core rule of the modern era: every intervention, whether introducing a species or erasing it, creates a chain reaction beyond the predictions of mathematical models. This is not only the boundary between non-native and native species. This is a lesson about how humanity responds to ecological changes on a planetary scale. The solution to resource depletion does not lie in continuously pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into mechanical machines to intervene violently in nature, nor does it lie in a binary mindset that eliminates life. The future of restoration lies in understanding and using the biological dynamics themselves. An animal species only develops its system-building power when it operates at the right density, at the right time, and in the right space. Human technology and resources will show their true power when they are used to measure and monitor nature's limits, instead of trying to use artificial force to break or replace cycles shaped by millions of years of evolution. Nature has never had a simple answer, and large-scale human interventions are still continuing with unpredictable consequences across the Earth. If you want to continue joining us as we decode ecological paradoxes and re-examine other massive environmental restoration projects, hit like and share this video. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the real facts behind humanity's efforts to control the planet. See you again in the next intervention.